We are back on Taking Care of Business with our guest by phone, Mark Bucher, the president of Californians Against Special Interests, and Bob Loewen, the president of the Orange County Lincoln Club. Just to follow up on what we were saying, you guys aren't really doing union bashing because we're talking about corporations as well.
Well, you know, one thing that one detail I wanted to add it's not easy to get this kind of data, but you know that the AT&T employee PAC for the 2010 election cycle spent $4.6 million that they got from their employees, and if you look at how they got the money, you can see it comes out so consistently. They had to be taking it from employee paychecks on an involuntary basis. That was the fourth largest amount spent by comparison to any of the unions that were participating in that election cycle, compared to, say, the American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees, which was at $4.4 million. I misstated that. The American Federation of State and County Municipal Employees spent about $4.4 million in that same election cycle, and that was the fourth highest of any of the unions. There were only 3 unions that spent more than that. So,
wow.
So you know, when we were out, you know, last time in the Citizen Power campaign saying, you know, the unions we needed to level the playing field with respect to them, and the union said, gee, you better take a look at the corporations. You know, the unions had a point. And so now we're doing it. We're leveling the playing field for all the special interests, and I think that's the right way to do it.
Well, I think the corporations ought to be happy that they don't have to spend all this money if your bill passes.
Certainly their employees will be.
Yeah, that's definitely for sure.
Well, okay, now, one of the things that you're going to be doing is traveling, I assume, somewhere throughout the state just to, you know, to get the word out on this bill. And one of the places you're going to be here is here next week in Bakersfield on May 25th at 7:30 at the Stockdale Country Club.
Yes.
And let me give a phone number out for anybody who's interested in coming. The phone number is 661-327-4141. This kind of leads into a question I had. Where do you get your supporters from? Because, you know, what we're doing now is you're talking about union people that aren't going to be necessarily happy with this, and you're looking at corporations that aren't going to be happy. So who's left? Where are you going to get the supporters?
Well, you know, it's a good question because, you know, we don't have the luxury of being just taking money out of people's paychecks, and there are, you know, a number. We do find that unions do like to try to use their intimidation tactics to prevent some from supporting us. So we have to go out and ask for it. And, you know, it started down here with Mark and I down here in Orange County, but we found that that our message has traction. And we're building coalitions all over the state of California. And we found that when we go to places like Bakersfield, that our message is finding traction with individuals. It actually finds traction with people that might even be affected by the initiative who say, I just don't care. I think that what you guys do you guys are right. You know, California is circling the drain. You know, every year we have $20 billion plus in budget deficits because we're spending too much, and you know, we're one of the most heavily taxed states. We can't just keep taxing ourselves to death. You know. We have one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. We have to stop that. We're dead last when CEOs are asked, you know, where do you want to put your businesses? You know, California is dead last in business friendliness, and we need to do something about this. So our coalition spreads all the way from the Bay Area all the way down to San Diego, and it includes Lincoln clubs. It includes taxpayer associations. It includes individuals that just have heard about us through things like this talk radio program, through our website, which, by the way, is stopspecialinterestnow.org, and you know, through word of mouth. And anybody who is interested in helping us and participating with us should go to our website and let us know.
Well, and I want to put a fine point on this. We don't have any, as it shouldn't surprise you, any large corporations or unions are supporting this. They don't want the state taken back. They like it the way it is. If people want California back, we need their support. We need their help. And it's individuals like the people listening that are going to help make this happen. And so that's why we're coming up there next week. We'd love to see anybody who cares about this to come and join us and help support it.
You know,
one of my favorite lines is sometimes what you hear the unions talk about. There are these out-of-state billionaires that are supporting us, and I really wish we had one of those, or two, or three, or whatever. But we haven't got any of those, you know. But we do have people that are contributing $100 and $1,000, and if we find somebody that'll give us, you know, $5,000 or $10,000, that's really great, you know. But that's the kind of supporters we've got, and we're just trying to piece together a whole bunch of those. And so far, we've had a lot of success with that, and we're hoping to be able to piece together enough money to be able to get signature gatherers out and put this on the ballot. And I think we're going to be able to do it, but only with the help of people who are listening.
Well, Clay, as a multimillionaire, maybe this is something you can donate to.
It might be.
So we're hoping.
We didn't know Clay could be that much help to us. But pretty soon we're happy to take him to breakfast.
Next Thursday at 7:30.
Exactly.
You had mentioned earlier that the corporations donate to both sides of the aisle. Do the unions do the same?
No, this is what's interesting. The unions are actually a lot more ideological in their giving, and I have a tendency to respect that. They're actually trying to accomplish a specific goal, and they give about 95% of their money to Democrats. The corporations give it almost 50-50, with slightly leaning toward Democrats, but it's split almost perfectly down the middle, because they're just buying influence from whoever they can get it from. And so, you know, whereas like I said, the unions have a very clear goal in mind, and they will generously reward anyone who's anyone that shares their view, and it's typically a bigger government view, and so that tends to be the Democrats. And like I said, their donations show up about 95% to them.
We're having a conversation by phone with Mark Bucher, the president of Californians Against Special Interest, and Bob Loewen, the president of the Orange County Lincoln Club.
You know, one of the things I learned when I was in Sacramento this past week from Connie Conway, the head of the Republican Assembly, she said that the Republicans are just 2 votes away from being unnecessary, both in the Senate and in the Assembly. Were you aware of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Democrats run this state.
There's not one congressional office in this state that's held by a Republican. It's all held by the Democrats.
Well,
you didn't mean congressional. You mean not one constitutional office.
Right. I'm sorry. Constitutional office in the state.
Right.
You're correct.
Yeah, all the constitutional offices, almost 2/3 of both the Senate and the Assembly, and of course most city councils. Kind of all the way up and down. It's controlled. It's controlled by the Democrats.
You know, you said something kind of interesting, I think, Mark, about corporations tend to lean towards Democrats in their giving. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's pretty close to 50-50, but it's I think if you actually look at the numbers, I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but it was about $20 million in spending, and just slightly more than $10 million of it went to Democrats, which sort of makes sense since they're the ones that are in control of the state. If you're just trying to buy influence, you're going to end up giving more money to the people that can make what you want to happen.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I think that it's always a rule in government that, you know, when the government is picking winners and losers, that somebody will always pay to be a winner, and they're going to pay the people that have control over who gets to be the winners. And there was an interesting little piece in San Jose Mercury News, I think, about a week and a half ago or something like that. They asked for a copy of the calendars of the members of the majority party in the Assembly. I think it was the Assembly, maybe the Senate, maybe both. But all they wanted to do is see who the meetings were with. You know, what lobbyists are they seeing and so forth. And the majority party wouldn't. I don't think they were even interested in who the minority party was seeing. And they said they decided collectively not to show them the calendars. And one of the freshman assembly women said, "Oh no, I couldn't do that because I have several CEOs whose privacy would be invaded by that. Wouldn't necessarily want it to be known that they were meeting with me." And I thought that just said it all right there.
You know, it's interesting. I saw that on your website, which, by the way, we'll talk about it in a minute. It's a great, great website. But I guess it was the San Jose Mercury talked about that. That was a fascinating article. You talk about revealing. Nobody wants to let anybody disclose where they're getting the money from and who. And who they're meeting with.
They don't even want it to be disclosed who they're talking to. But it also shows the influence. You know, that I mean, I think Mark's assessment of you know that if you look at overall policy, that the public sector unions control the state legislature. They clearly control the governor. And we can go into examples of that if you want to. But then when you look at individualized specific issues, the corporations swoop in and look for corporate welfare, as we call it, because they're looking to be the winner on particular issues. They want to control their area that they want to be able to muscle out other companies, for the goodies that the government's going to push out, or the government's going to be handing out, and nobody wants it to be known, what legislators they're talking to, because that's inconvenient.
You bet. We'll pick up there where we come back in a minute on Taking Care of Business on Kern Radio Newstalk 1180.